All right. All right. Welcome everybody to Deep Dives in the Desert. And this is Crypto Corner with John and Jace. Good morning, Jace. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing? Good morning.
Good, good. Can't complain. It took a little while for me to wake up, but as soon as I went outside, the brisk cold woke me up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I felt that this morning too. Had a little bit of trouble getting conscious when I woke up, but we're doing good now.
Yeah, yeah. You know you're in trouble when coffee don't help. It's just like
Yeah,
it's
I
not
got my
working.
coffee here right now.
Yeah, that's a,
Big glass. It's mostly raw milk, so disclaimer,
yeah.
it's not mostly coffee.
Um, so yeah, so we're getting some good feedback from the first few shows, and so some of the things that we wanted to make sure we really start to cover is and get in context is on why it really is important, and as far as Jason and I are really in agreement that it is vital you at least learn and get the correct information on really uh, learning how to see the opportunities, why one one crypto may be better than the other, how to create a passive stream of income, how to do these things on a decentralized exchange. And and so when it comes to that, Jace, your program really speaks to that. And so, just again, why do you think that the timing of when you started your program to
Mm,
really this evolution? Because what we're going to do is we're going to go there, but then we're going to kind of take a time machine back a little bit and go through what happens when why all the reasons why Jace will probably hit on why it is important and why he created this program. You'll know why once we go a little bit back in time, and go through a little context on why it really is important to be sovereign. So with that time, the timing of your program and where it's going to evolve to, what are the main staples on why you would have done that?
yeah, well, I mean, I got started in crypto myself in 2020. I was
Mhm.
pretty opposed to it before 2020. I thought it was going to be, basically the the NWO kind of currency. I thought it was going to take us in the wrong path. I didn't understand the technology and everything. So when I learned about XRP, that really piqued my interest. It was the first crypto that I was like, okay, there might be something to this, because Bitcoin didn't really resonate with me. Ethereum didn't really resonate with me, but something about XRP. So I did all this research, you know, started understanding the technology, investing, and then people around me started asking me, hey, can you help me out with this? And I started
Mhm.
realizing, wow, there's like a really uh, big kind of demand and need to educate people on this technology, because it is the future. I think it's the future of our sovereignty in general, because I think maybe we touched on this before, but like freedom of finance is kind of um, the core freedom that so many of our other freedoms revolve around. So
That's
if we
right.
don't have freedom of finance, we can't really exercise our free speech that fluidly. If you need to pay to get somewhere, for instance, to go to a protest or something, like the Canadian truckers, like you need to be able
Mhm.
to spend money on gas and resources to go use your free speech. The right to bear arms, obviously, you need to be able to transact to purchase firearms and things like that. So when you don't have freedom of finances, it kind of strips away all other freedoms. And I feel like that
Yeah.
was the direction they were starting to push our country and the world, where, we look at China and we see what they're doing with like the social credit system and the digital dollar, the digital yuan in China,
Yeah.
and the, other countries as well. Like they can start taking away very basic freedoms because the freedom of finance is already stripped, and then they can take away
Yeah.
everything else. So with me, it was like, okay, this is so important for people to learn on that end, but also on the opportunity spectrum, because there is such a massive opportunity here. And I was feeling that this is going to be like a massive wealth transfer. And that for, rich people, poor people, people in the middle, everybody, it was going to be this opportunity where generational wealth could be seeded and created. Oh, are you still there? Okay, cool. I thought I froze for a sec.
No, no, no. I'm listening.
Yeah. So like, I think it's going to be the largest opportunity, not just within our lifetime, but
Mm-hmm.
probably all of humanity, if I really had to guess, where like the
Yeah.
average person is going to be able to capitalize on a massive shift in the financial system where the power is shifting from top down to down up.
Yeah, and it's I think you're 100% correct. And how we always say it's always shifting from Main Street to Wall Street, Main Street to Wall Street. It's going to be Main Street, which is probably what 95% of the population, world's
Mm,
population, right?
yeah,
Is going that's who's going to really be able to capitalize and grow financially sovereign with
yep.
this with crypto because it is decentralized. But yeah, no, I agree. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's
Continue.
pretty much it. Just like, the both the technology shift and then the opportunity, the freedom that's associated with it. And then I think out of this shift, there's going to be so many new opportunities and possibilities that blossom in the world because there's many directions we could go with this, but basically the money is going to be now put in the hands, I believe, of people who truly care about the planet and humanity, and not people who are concerned with enslaving humanity financially and with other means. So it's just a massive shift of the tides. And for people watching, like, participating in this shift and in this movement can be massively prosperous for your financial health and wealth, and like creating generational wealth for your family as well. I think that that's really what we're seeing
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, and what I want to, can you go on your own and do research and go trial and error
Mhm.
with your finances with crypto? Of course, you could do however you'd like. We're preaching sovereignty. We're not preaching, right? We're not preaching. We're not the kind of the matrix. But what I would say is this: Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, you name all the best players, they had a quarterback coach, a shooting coach, a dribbling coach. They all had coaches, and they were the absolute top of the top, right? They were exceptional men amongst exceptional men. And in anything, it don't have to be men or women. I
Yeah.
don't get lost in the weeds. But my point being is that anyone could do that. So it was always intriguing to me because like the first thing I went to go do is get a life coach when I was a little bit young, because I realized when I was playing football, no matter how good they were telling me I was, I knew that I had a coach, right? No matter how great Michael Jordan was, he had a coach and he had a conditioning coach. So when you look at that, your life is the most important thing, and it's precious. And why wouldn't you get a coach for your life, right? To keep you on the right direction. So it's always Jace 1.0. Now you're Jace 2.0, right? And then 3.0, but it's because there's someone holding you accountable and someone showing you the right way to do things, or a different way that may be beneficial because they're looking from the outside in. And it really is important when it comes to crypto, is because it is a newer medium out there, and it is decentralized, and it can be scary, especially for the older generations. I'm talking about from, say, maybe one generation behind me, younger than me,
Yeah.
and up, to go through it, because I was in the financial world my whole career, and I hate to say it was scary to me because I can't stand saying I was scared about it, but it was kind of an unknown, an uncertainty, and it's like, do I put my family at risk because I'm just going to jump into something? It was, and I always look at it, being in that field. It should have been like a normal progression for me to just understand it, and it wasn't. And so I had to get a coach. And so you look at somebody who, through the 90s, was a broker on Wall Street, a financial advisor, ran a state program for banks, and then the big bank, one of the biggest banks out that we have in America. And so, and there's people with better pedigrees than mine, but my pedigree was, I have a substantial experience in that area, and I was looking for a coach, right? And so I found a great one. I found a great coach who was put together a program that I felt really had a coherence between consciousness, doing the right thing for humanity, but also making money, finding opportunity, and getting stronger financially. And it's why, again, I always say it, is why I was so excited to have Jace as my partner and co-host in this series, because I'm not just talking kind of out of my butt to go. I'm telling, he's who I used, and I would never tell anyone to do anything different than what I was prepared to do to make sure my family would be okay. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, man.
No, thank you. But what I think is important, and I won't go too far into this. And if anyone does want, if I see some comments that you want us to do a show where we deeper dive into what happened building up to the 2008 collapse and why it is vital to learn crypto and have your sovereignty. It really, you have to go back a little bit and find out why was crypto created and why did it rise and why was so many people why was it so much money being made in crypto? It was because of things that happened in the past, right? And if you don't understand that history, well, then history will repeat itself at some point because you never took the time to know. And so I think what makes our show really unique is the difference in our age and our generation, is because, when I was actually going through that, Jace was a younger guy at that time and was still going into school, and then fast forward, all the stuff he learned through getting comfortable with technology and everything prepared him to really take advantage of learning crypto and putting out a program the way he did, where I was able to circle back and really capitalize on all the work that he has put in, learning all that stuff as a younger guy in that technology age. So that's why I think it does. I think we have a kind of two unique perspectives. So
totally. And I know very little about, because like you're saying, I was just a teenager when 2008 financial crisis happened, and I really had very little awareness of what was going on because I didn't care about the economy when I was a teenager. But I always kind of struggled to understand the traditional financial system, and then about crypto, it just clicked in a way that the other one didn't. And so to have a dichotomy and to be able to like share that is really cool.
And can I tell you something? I know, like up here, I know we're moving to we're in it. We're in the crypto age. But that's where it's going. We're going to, a decentralized, and it's been mostly digital anyway, but we're going there anyway. But to me, the other way, because it was so ingrained to me, that makes so much more sense to me. So, and I'm trying to, it was like when you put a spoke in someone's wheel.
Yeah.
Or when Terminator got hit with the thing, he's like, you feel you go through you're getting discombobulated. But
trying to connect the dots and understand how things correlate to
and that's what's so big, and that's what I love about what you do too, is that I was missing one or two different dots that I needed connected with certain things, because there are a lot of different areas. So there are a lot of different areas, but on certain things I was like, what is the exchange and wallet? What do you what is that? How do you do that? And it was like, boom, one dot connected and it propels you forward 3 steps. And then another dot got connected and it propelled me forward, where I went on my own for a little while, kind of stepped on a landmine and said, oh shit, I got to go back, see what Jay says about this, and you kind of feel your way. But having that coach behind you gives you almost the backbone to take those steps forward. And so again, that's why it is so important. And so with that, what I'll do is, when you go back to what happened during the collapse, which is the greatest robbery of Main Street ever, right, since the Great Depression. But this was it, and really the biggest contributor to it was the subprime mortgage industry and people owning homes that, with such lax lending regulation. And I'll give you an example. I was looking to buy a home at that point, and this real estate agent, or the mortgage broker I was dealing with, said, and of course, when you see houses, if you see a better house, or you're like, I like that one better. What? That one has a pool, or that one has this. And so, but you realize you're slowly going out of your price range.
Yeah.
Right. So that means your monthly nut is almost going to be too much. Do you know, I was told, fax me in a letter that says you make $15,000 a month. And I was like, I don't make that much at this point. I make, but just say I make 10, right?
Right.
And I was like, and so she was like, yeah, no, that's fine. Just fax me a letter. I don't have to prove it. Just fax me a letter and I'll get you a mortgage to get that house.
Well, so you didn't even have documents to support it. It was just
no. Yeah, knowing, but now you have to realize, now we're coming from emotion. We're going to get a house. Oh my God,
right.
Beautiful, great, right? And it would have, of course, it would have been an ARM, right, an adjustable rate mortgage. So when that adjustable rate would have came in, it would have blew me up. But what happened is I wrote that letter out. I typed it out. I was so excited. I put it on the fax machine. I typed her number in, and right before I was going to hit send, if I was in the space I'm in today, I would have said that was my guidance telling me stop, stupid. What are you doing? Right? But I just stopped and I said, wait, if I send this in and I'm making $5,000 less a month needed to get a proof of this house, how would I ever afford it? I'm just going into something that I'm going to have to be foreclosed on in a year. It don't make sense. Right. So that was what was happening with the subprime with the mortgage. So I was one example, and they did this to people on 5 properties, 10 properties, on school teachers that should have never happened. So when you go back a little bit, what the government was doing and why it's the government, it's Fannie and Freddie Mac. What they were doing is they would put together, like, say, $100 million trough of loans, of mortgages, right? The rating agencies were in their pocket, and so what they would do is they would rate it, AAA rated, which is rated what a Treasury bill would be rated. So, but they were paying out 7% rather than what the Treasury pays out, what it was like 2%. Mm-hmm. And so I was a broker at the time. I was a financial advisor at the time. And when I saw that, and I could tell my customers, it's AAA rated paper, that's government rated paper, but you're getting 7%. You're making almost triple what you can make on that. And this talk about people who are investing 7 figures, that's a big difference. And so they're putting their faith in you. Yeah. And you think you're doing the right thing to them, because it's like, how can Moody's and S&P be on the same page and rating it so great? Mm-hmm. And why would Fannie and Freddie Mac, their government agencies, they got to be telling me the truth, mm-hmm. right? And so they put these together. Well, what it was instead of it being true AAA rated paper or even triple B rated, it wasn't. It was people like you and I, like what I would have got into, so I wouldn't have been able to pay my mortgage. The way we would pay those customers that 7%, Jace, was basically people paying their mortgages. That funds the CMOs, right? And then we're able to pay out. So when the people said, I can't afford to pay my mortgage, bank can't take my keys. I can't pay it. So what happened, it became a large, like a Bernie Madoff, huge Ponzi scheme, right? And so when that happened, the real estate market, which blew up at 2005, the markets were flying. Everything was going great. And then, boom, all of a sudden we go into work one day and the market opens up 600 points down. And I remember one of them clearly because it was 666 points. And, 666 is like, holy cow.
There's a sign right there.
Right? And then the next day, 1,000 points. And then they closed the market early saying it was a computer glitch. And it kept happening. And, when you're in it every day, it's hectic because the phones were, if you ever seen the second Wall Street movie, the phones were ringing and we're going, no, listen, this is America. It always comes, just sit and hold.
Okay, don't worry about it. Like, just hang it
there. But people were getting decimated and I'm going like, oh my gosh. And so what happens is everything started to fall. Then you hear about the corruption that happened. And the reason I bring this up is a couple of things is, and again, there's a lot more context in it, but I don't want to get lost too much in it because I want to really bring it full circle to where we are today. But when the Federal Reserve, that's where our money is concentrated, right? That's the centralization of our money. Yeah. When a small, if you're a government power that has power, what do you want? More power. Right? If you have control, what do you want? More control. Right. And that's why when people are rich, what do they say? I want to be richer, right? I want to make more money.
And that's kind of this within itself too is like the constant desire to just, it's never enough, right? It's just
Right.
always kind of the conquering mindset, like just keep expanding, keep conquering, keep growing.
Right. And so, and I think though, when you do that, but you do it under a centralized model, what happens is it's very easy. It's almost like God giveth, God taketh away. Well, when it's centralized, that's kind of what it reminds me of, because when it's centralized like that with the Federal Reserve, when you're making all your money, once you go, yeah, I think I'm good now, I don't need to be part of this matrix. What happens is the attacks start coming, and then legal bills, and you did this wrong and that wrong, and they start pulling regulations out from, like, you interrupted the flight of a pigeon, and that's a law on the books from, like, 1812, whatever. It's some stupid stuff, and they start coming after you for everything. And so, but they're able to do that. Why? You made your money, you want to make more money, and you're not complying, but they have the power to take it from you. So what do? You capitulate, and you become just another cog in the matrix, and you start hurting other people by disseminating lies, by being quiet, lying by omission, whatever it is, because the people that look up to you are all going to follow your lead, and you're leading them right to the path of hell, right? No matter what your intention is, it doesn't matter, because that's, where you're going with it, but it's because it's centralized. And what does crypto do? Crypto is the counter to that. Crypto is the counter to that, because they cannot do that. Nobody in crypto can go and say, if you don't do this, I'm taking that from you or this from you. Now, nothing's foolproof. Obviously, there's goods and bads in everything, but there is nothing else out there that can give you your own sovereignty away from the power players. That is all centralized, and that's what essentially happened. And the bank I was working at during that collapse, it was Colonial Bank, and it was a mid-sized bank and growing. And I was over the state of Nevada for the brokerage program, and it was an amazing bank, right, for a mid-sized bank. Mr. Lauder, who owned the bank, he was a billionaire, huge in real estate in Florida. Now, Nevada and Florida were two of the biggest states that got hit with the real estate collapsing. We got decimated, right? And what happened? He lost everything got lost, right? And so the bank went out of business that I was working at. And what happened is people thought, oh, no, that's okay. I got FDIC. That'll cover everything. Well, the other banks that were in trouble as well, right? Other banks went out of business, and FDIC insurance does not, and they do not have the money in their coffers. If just 0.05% of banks go out of business, the depositors are not covered. They cannot. They don't have that, nowhere near that money. And there was an article that came out that was asking all the big three, Wells, JP Morgan, Bank of America, if they can each put tens of millions of dollars into them just to cover if something else happened in America. But they don't have the money to cover. And the depositors at Colonial Bank, which my heart went out to, it was over a year before U.S. Bank absorbed all those bank branches. They said all the bad loans, U.S. Bank, don't worry about. We'll take them on, which means you and I, the taxpayer, is going to pay for those through the nose, right? But since U.S. Bank is going to take all those depositors on, and so they can finally get their money out, a year down the road. Yeah. Right. Then, and what they did is what? And then we'll give you get 30 million. You get this bailout, this bailout, this bailout, this bailout. And so the too big to fail was kind of horseshit at that point, right? Because they're just bailing everybody out. And the only bank that gave the money back was Jamie Dimon and JP Morgan, because they said, if you keep the money, you cannot get a bonus. So Jamie Dimon gave the money back and then gave himself a $30 million bonus, and his employees couldn't have, God forbid, they had coffee in the branch to have for themselves in the morning, but he got his bonus. So good for him.
Of course.
But, yeah. And then, and you have to realize this thing trickled, Jace. I mean, it was amazing, because I was, you sell, annuities through insurance companies, supposed to be safe. AIG was the biggest at the time. Them and Bank of America we're down at $2 a share, which always made me laugh. If you go to a foreign ATM, I mean, in America, but you go to one that's at Wells Fargo when you're a Bank of America customer. Well, Bank of America charges you $2 because you're going to a Wells Fargo, and that was there. I think that may be mine. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah, let me see if I can silence. It might be my hand. Let me see. Okay, I think it should be good now.
Okay, but they both went down and they decided who are we going to make fail.
Yeah.
Right. And so AIG went out. But you have to realize all those annuity holders, where did their insurance policies go? And where their insurance, their life insurance, their annuities, all of that, where does it go? And so they had to get other insurance companies to come in and absorb those contracts, right?
Yeah.
And then, but when people think they're safe because, oh, well, I'm not in the banks, I'm in an annuity with an insurance company. Well, what are the insurance companies invested in? Are they invested in the same derivatives as Silicon Valley Bank was? And they can go out of business just as well if they have bad investments. And when they do, what happens to your contract? So when you look at the traditional system, you have to be very careful. And history provided a massive teaching for us during that time. Yeah. But if you don't take action on it, right, because knowledge isn't power. Taking action on knowledge is power. And so that's what's important. And I think that's where we're headed now in crypto.
So do you think without crypto, we would have been headed for a worse financial crisis than 2008?
Yes. And you want to know why? An article came out when, we were looking at it, and I happened to see an article that come out and said that Fannie and Freddie. All right. So back before the collapse, they were taking, they would get mortgages from people up to $450,000, right? Mm-hmm. So they stopped doing it for, I don't know, maybe 8 years to let all the dust settle. Well, there's an article that came out that they were doing now the same thing, but they were doing mortgages up to $1 million. So not only are they doing the same thing, but they over doubled the amount of money in the mortgages that they were going after. Yeah. And so when you look at it and you go, like, that created like the biggest theft of Main Street, right? And now you're doing it again after it wasn't even after 50 years.
Yeah.
It was literally 5, 6 years, 7 years. And you know why? Countrywide mortgage guy didn't go. He's somewhere in the Bahamas hanging out on the beach with his $300 million and all the bad loans that guy put out, all the bad loans that were put out to these people, knowing they couldn't afford them, right. Knowing it. And all that stuff, but nothing happened. Nothing. The only person I think that went to jail was recently this woman who was a high up in Wells Fargo, went because they were creating like credit cards and checking accounts for people who never went to the bank. They were just like opening stuff up for people, and they had that big lawsuit. They had to pay out on it, and it was, I forgot what her position was, but she was a higher up exec, and she. And who knows how much jail time she's doing, but she's very, very, very small. So there's no penalties, but yet the ripple effect of people that just got devastated. You got to lick your wounds and come back, stop complaining, and that's it. So to bring it kind of full circle here, that's like a very high, just a high end, like kind of 30,000-foot view of it, because it gets really deep. And just if anyone wants to, you go, if you didn't watch the movie The Big Short, that was very, very close to true. And that character, I think it's Brad Pitt that plays him, very, very true. That guy was kind of just like a massive genius with that stuff. But with the algorithms that we're actually finding out, we are going into a massive recession. We're being, just anyone who was saying that, we're getting smashed down, fired. For some reason, they just didn't want to do it, and it looks like today, right? It looks like today. I mean, Elon bought Twitter. Now it's X, and so we have like kind of more of a free speech platform where people can say, what they want without getting crazy, but they can say what they want. But how they keep control is there has to be someone disseminating information. But that's why the MSM. There's 3 or 4 companies that 3 or 4 of them that are out there, but really, it's like 1 or 2 companies own like the whole thing. So they disseminate the information they want us to know, right? Yeah. And there's no differing opinions. Everyone, it sounds like they all say the same exact words,
Yep.
right? And when you hear him play a montage of it, it's like,
Yeah, it's like a copy and paste. Like,
yeah, it's wild when you hear it. Yeah, and so, and the same thing with social media started happening, right? They were suppressing articles and laptops that they didn't want out there. They suppressed all this stuff.
Dude,
well, now
I got 2 or 3 Facebooks deleted. This was in like 2020. 2 or 3 Facebooks deleted, my Twitter deleted, and like 2 Instagram pages deleted. Even like business ones that weren't posting anything controversial or political, just because they were tangentially connected to me, they got, burned. And I still haven't got those back. But like now that X is a thing, I feel like it really did save free speech. And I think it really affected this election season too, obviously, because people
without a doubt
talk about what they wanted to talk about.
Yeah. And what was weird, then all of a sudden, you like even heard what Zuckerberg came out and was like, "This, I was forced to talk about this by the administration, and I'm not going to do that." But you're still heavily censored by their fact checkers, which is just people's opinions who just don't agree with ours, right? But when to just kind of get back to on the financial side of it is, back when, if you look at the U.S. debt clock, it shows the debt, but the one that's .org, where it shows like everything. When you look at the one thing that the founders said you had to be most careful of, the people in charge of the money, like the J.P. Morgans back in the day, at the Rockefeller, stuff like that, because who controls the money controls the population. Just like you said in the beginning, it's 100% correct.
Yeah, it's the root of everything else. It's like it's the root. It's the core of it.
Yeah, and so you always want to be balanced, right? So you always want to try and be in the most healthy shape, right? Be in good shape, and keep your mind clear, and stay in your sovereignty, and making money isn't evil. You want to make money, but do it for the right reasons, and be a help to humanity. And grow, and then you pay it forward by showing people how to do it in the right way. And so that's kind of, I feel, our little niche that we dug out with the show to kind of get that message out there in that way. And so bringing it full circle, and one of the things that and one of the cryptos that we talk about that are and one of the cryptos we talk about that are, we feel, is going to be up there as king of the hill, and we have a lot of faith in, is that Ripple platform and XRP.
Yep.
And yesterday XRP was up at about 61 cents and 62 cents, something like that, and it was the high for the last 300 days. It hit a 300-day high.
Dude, today it hit 70 cents. Did you know that?
So there you go. See, I didn't even look at it today because I was looking.
Like another 10-15% than yesterday.
So it's on a great run right now, and it's moving. And so since we've just spoke about it, since we've just been doing the show, it was like in the it was like in maybe the high 40s, low 50s.
Yeah, it's been hovering around the 50s for quite some time.
And now 70 cents, but on 50 cents, when you look at the percentage gain, that's a massive percentage gain just in a month and a half or so. But
that's the thing with crypto compared to traditional markets too, as I'm sure you obviously know, is that crypto is way more volatile. Like you could make in a day, you could have percentage increases that would take years in the stock market to achieve. But it goes both directions. So it's
right.
You have to approach it in kind of a different mindset, I would think, and I never did traditional investing. I never invested in stocks, but I'm assuming that, for people that have come from both, they've kind of had to shift the way that they think about investing a little bit when it comes to crypto. If you're doing trading and things like that, if you're just investing and storing it, then it's, pretty much the same.
Yeah.
If you're trading, it's a little bit of a different game.
Yeah. So, there are stocks that you would trade, and there are stocks that you would hold, you would say like the passive income. Right. But like, so if a stock had a big dividend, right, that you were getting paid out, but it really don't move much, it's going to, you don't expect it to go from 50 to 100. It's going to stay trade in a range from, you bought it at 50, it may trade from 49 to 51. Right. But so, it's not going nowhere. It's a really big company, and they offer 7% dividend or 4% dividend. So that would be something you would kind of just set and let it go. And there are stocks that just have a bigger trading range, but
and I do
no
think
matter,
I do think that's where crypto will be in a few years, is that right now we're in this time of extreme opportunity where it is really volatile, where the market caps are really low compared to what they need to be to fulfill the technological use case. But I think in the next few years, I mean, like with XRP in particular, the whole point of XRP is that it's doing these cross-border payments, right? So XRP is trying to either replace or integrate on the back end with the Swift system. And for those watching that don't know what Swift is, that's the current way that cross-border payments and bank-to-bank transfers are done. But as you know, Swift doesn't actually settle funds. It's just a messaging system. So it just tells each bank, oh, you owe this bank this much, and then they have to go in on the back end and actually do the settlement. And that's kind of dinosaur technology now, because we have the tech to settle it instantly. And XRP can settle any amount of money, thousands, millions, billions, trillions, hypothetically, in 2 to 4 seconds for fees that are ridiculously cheap, like less than a penny in most cases.
Which is wild.
In order for it to be able to facilitate these cross-border payments, it has to have really deep liquidity. It has to have a really large market cap, because if you're moving millions or billions or potentially trillions of dollars in and out of a market of this bridge asset every day, connecting other forms of value, it's essentially got to be the sum of all the value moving through it, so that you don't have huge market swings. And it's like, like now, Bitcoin is obviously the biggest crypto. People are buying houses with Bitcoin and stuff. But 10 years ago, you couldn't buy a house or sell a house with Bitcoin because it would just move the market way too much. So in the same respect, XRP and the creator, David Schwartz, is on record saying this, that XRP can't be dirt cheap. And he literally gave the analogy. He said, if it's worth $1, it just doesn't work. And he gave the reference of $1 million XRP. A lot of people would say that's crazy, but he literally put that out there, that said that would be a more practical valuation, because at some point it's got to just be stable. And I think that's when it will kind of become, more like the traditional large companies and stock markets, in that sense, where you're not going to have to deal with volatility, but it's not going to have the opportunity that there is now to reach those levels.
Right. But and when you look at it, though, that's why I think when you look at all the practical uses with, say, some of the other cryptos that are out there that do have some teeth, like XRP, meaning that they do have utility in them, where it can be used in future, whether it's shipping or whatever different industry. When you look at XRP and the financial system, and this is global and potentially galactic, but global, it's a global financial system. The amount of money used back and forth, and this is for everything, right? This is going to be for countries buying oil, for countries buying, wheat and computer chips, and just sending money back and forth to family. And so it has to hit that number. It sounds, it sounds like, but it's 100% correct. You need to have that stability. So it's not out of the realm, and I'm sure he's not saying it's going to be there, next month, but over time it will grow there.
Yeah.
But that's why I think that XRP and its complementary brothers and sisters there, with the Corium and Sologenic and
XLM, Stronghold.
And Stronghold.
Yeah.
And I think they're all, and anything that kind of they take, you hear them promoting or investing in themselves.
Yeah.
Right. To move. I think it's going to be it's like tentacles on an octopus. It's all going to be tentacles that are going to, when they come together, it's going to hit every industry. And like you said, it could be to help promote fair elections. It could be because the technology, that base technology, that's an amazing cutting edge technology, and so it can be used. And then when you realize, elections have consequences, and so to have a fair election is huge, because in one fell swoop, an administration could come in, if we're not careful, right? And we don't get strong and we don't get financially independent, and because and we're harder to control, so we have a voice, right? An administration could come in, because I don't think these next 4 years are going to go by quick. I don't think the other side is going to just be sitting there going, "Oh, too bad we lost." They are going to, in 4 years, they're going to want to come back and they are going to want to institute, how do we put the wall up now and crush this sovereign BS that they're all talking about? How do we get that to stop? How do we crush X so it's not such a free, where it's a platform of different ideas that people can make their own decisions? How do we start to crush that and we get our message out all the time, that if you don't agree with me, you're a fascist, you're Hitler, you're this, you're that, rather than, no, I'm just a person with a different idea, and I forgot who said it, but they go, we think that we think the left are just people with bad ideas. The left thinks we are bad people with bad ideas,
Right.
And I don't think that's necessarily the case. So, as far as as far as kind of this thread that we're moving into with crypto, where do you think, say, over the next 2 years, where do you think XRP could potentially be? Have some fun with it. Yeah.
It's always tricky to make guesstimates on price.
This is just folks. This is just for fun. For fun.
I think between $10 and $100 is possible within even the next year in this current bull run cycle. And I think that this cycle is going to translate into a utility run, because right now the current way that the crypto cycles work is they run in 4-year cycles historically. And these are speculative cycles. And they're based off of the Bitcoin halving, because Bitcoin leads the markets right now. So Bitcoin has this thing where every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoin that the miners actually generate is cut in half. So supply and demand, the supply is less, so the price goes up basically to compensate. Right now we're in that 4-year cycle, but I think we're going to break out of that, and I think we're going to start seeing utility runs, which is when the price action is driven by the actual usage and utility on an institutional and a retail level, but especially institutional level. Were you trying to show me something there on your phone? Oh, you're muted.
Look on your phone.
Oh, gotcha. So I think basically we're going to be translating into this utility run, and that's what's going to drive the massive price adoption. And I personally believe XRP is going to be going into the thousands when we hit the utility run. I think 10,000 plus is very doable, and that's backed up by both, numbers and like the amount of, and a lot of people, I'll say this, a lot of people assume with crypto that the market cap has to be equal to the amount of money that physically flows in, right? So if it's a $1 trillion market cap, a lot of people wrongly assume $1 trillion actual dollars has to flow into that market to give it that market cap. And it's not the case, because with crypto, at least, the market cap is just equal to the price times the circulating supply. So all it needs is there to be a high enough demand that people don't want to sell it below a certain price. And if enough people don't want to sell it below $100, $1,000, $10,000, especially institutions, because right now the liquidity on XRP is drying up. So that what that means is that on these public exchanges where you can go and buy XRP right now, that actual liquidity is disappearing. I think there's only like less than 3 billion XRP, and it might be less than 1 billion that are actually available on public exchanges, and the rest is being held by institutions, being held by Ripple, that are going to use it for these cross-border payments. So those are never going to see the open market again. Those are not going to be, accessible to the masses. And so I think when that liquidity dries up on these exchanges and you're no longer able to go in and buy XRP, like you go to your Coinbase app or whatever, and it's like, we don't have any more XRP, sorry. That's going to drive up the price massively. And the other thing I think will happen is that, I don't think XRP is necessarily intended for the average person to hold. I think it's intended for the institutions and the governments and the big money to hold. So if enough retail has it and they want that liquidity, they want that technology, I've heard theories, which I think could be true, that these institutions might reach out to us as retail investors and say, hey, can we borrow your XRP because we need it for liquidity for our system? And we'll give you, whatever, 10%, whatever on your XRP annually, to borrow that from you. And that's just a theory. I don't know if that's going to happen for sure.
Well, but is that just like what's the staking? That's almost like, is that like staking, but kind of?
Yeah. So that's where it gets controversial, because a lot of people who are into the culture of crypto and are anti-bank, anti-institution would be like, no, I'm not going to give you, my crypto, especially because one of the whole points of crypto is the self-custody. Like you mentioned, the wallets and stuff earlier, right? That's one of the things that separates this technology from previous investments is you can self-custody, meaning you are totally in control and responsible of your investments. It's not being held by a third party in any degree. There's no third party that can freeze it or take it or do anything. It's not like a bank. It's not like stocks. You full control, but you also are, at the risk that if you mess up and you don't kind of keep track of it, it could be gone. So more power, more responsibility, like we've said before. I kind of forgot where I was going with that, but
we're talking about like if the governments and big corporations ask us to borrow our.
Well, yeah, with the staking. So yeah, so like I think by that time right now there's no native way to stake XRP. So right now, pretty much you just hold your XRP. There's no way to stake it for passive income, but that's something that they're working on, that the developers are working on, and it may happen, it might not. But if it does happen, and there is, say, like a 10%, 8%, maybe 20, 25%, like we see with Corium staking, then the banks are going to have to provide something even greater than that if they want to borrow it, because people are going to go, no, I'm not going to give it to you because I'm going to make more just staking it and holding it myself. So they're going to have to offer something that really is of value to the person that is holding that asset.
Yeah, which, which is crazy, because like you said, at 25% now, that is a massive compounding interest. That is, I don't know how they would match. I'm sure they can, and they will at some point. But yeah, if they don't match it, why would anybody? Yeah. Why would anybody move and do anything different and say, yeah, I'm not giving my, my sovereignty away, or even anything close that may be coming close. The reason why I'm doing it is kind of counter to me lending it to you specifically, because this is the reason why crypto really became so prominent, is because of the stuff that they did. So,
and people are going to
be interesting.
Their precious asset to an institution, because the whole point is that they wanted to be able to hold that. So they're going to have to provide something pretty valuable for people to give that up.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they would have to do something like a split. I wonder if they can do that with crypto, since it's a like stock split. You get you get double the stock, and then the price goes down by half. So it's really, you aim this, like you own the same $20,000, but instead of it being like 1,000 shares at $20, gotcha, right? It's 2,000 shares at $10.
Price. Yeah.
Right, and that's if that happens to a stock you're in, you're ecstatic, because it's going to go up, and you got double the amount of shares.
And that's the thing with crypto is, in most cases, the supply can't change. The supply is usually
finite.
Yeah, you have a finite supply, or you have a regulated form of inflation. So like XRP, finite supply, there will never be more than 100 billion XRP tokens. It is literally impossible for anyone to mint or create more. And it's deflationary. So that's another big benefit compared to, like the US dollar, for example, which it's funny because there's a meme that goes around that, like, they talk about, I don't want to cuss on here, but there's a name for coins that aren't good projects. They call them, shit coins, basically. And so there's a meme that goes around that's like, oh, check out this coin. and it's like supply of however many US dollars there are, and like inflation is this much percent a year, and it's like this is a shit coin, and it's like, oh no, wait, this is the US dollar, oops. And it's like it's the worst tokenomics of any kind of currency out there. And if it was crypto, it would be one that nobody would invest in because it's just
yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, and they made the dollar essentially toilet paper when in the 70s they took us off the gold standard because you just can't print physical gold, which was backing the dollar. So once they took us off that gold standard, there's nothing backing it. So they just keep printing. And so you put more dollars into circulation with their same or less products to buy.
Yeah.
What's going to happen is that's where inflation comes in, right? Yeah. And so that's just how it works.
Some cryptos do have inflation, but it is a regulated form of inflation that isn't like unchecked and up to a centralized agency like the Federal Reserve, who, by the way, as you know, isn't even an American. It's not a government agency. And what's interesting now is, like, I don't know if you saw this, but Elon posted the other day a tweet from Ron Paul talking about how the Federal Reserve is unconstitutional at its base. And then Elon just said, interesting. And that leads me to believe, which I've already been theorizing, that they're going to end the Federal Reserve and give that power to the Treasury. And maybe we'll get a new type of US dollar. I think whether we get a new one or not, I mean, it would make sense that we would get something new because that's the Federal Reserve note. But in either case, I think we're going to be going back to the gold standard. And then, cryptos like XRP, they're going to be empowering all these different national currencies and these precious metals and these commodities and resources, as opposed to like Bitcoin, where a lot of they call them Bitcoin maxis, would be the people who think Bitcoin is the only crypto and everything else sucks. In the crypto space, a maxi is someone who believes in one project and thinks everything else is crap. So the Bitcoin maxis will often say, you don't need gold anymore. You don't need the US dollar. You don't need anything. You just need Bitcoin. And obviously that's kind of silly because gold and silver have value that crypto doesn't, right? So XRP connects that all. And I think that's the reality we're moving into, is one where we have different national currencies for each country, region. They're backed by precious metals, those national currencies. And then you have the cryptocurrencies like XRP, Stronghold, and others that are the liquidity between all these different forms of value. And, this could literally prevent World War III on an economic level. If we can create this cohesion on the international stage, I think it could really prevent some crazy things.
Well, look, I mean, just with the dinar with Iraq, they just got they're on the FX again, right, on the exchange, the currency exchange, and they're trading, and the big thing that can happen, the dollar being that the reserve currency, what the corruption ultimately led to for America to do is kind of use it as a cudgel out there, and you don't listen, bing, we hit you over the head with sanctions, and we make it hard for your country, and your money's devaluing. And even look right across the border in Mexico. I don't know what the exact rate is, but I remember back when it was like 2,000 or 2,700 pesos to a dollar. And so when you start to see that, why are so many people coming, kind of coming to America, right? Our dollar is strong. They make a couple of bucks here, they send it back to their families, right? And so, but what we get is, look what starts happening with the illegal immigration, right? It starts and we start getting, there's a good and bad to everything, and we start getting some bad things happening. And so I think that one of the good things about it, if we go global and we look at what we did to Russia, right? We took them off the SWIFT system. We thought that was going to cripple them, and what they did is they got gold, they backed their ruble, and instead of using the American dollar or our treasury, right, which collateralizes our dollar, which is all, that's BS. It's just a cycle of BS, right? But instead of using that, what they did is they went and they're using the ruble now to buy, or China was using the yuan to buy, not the American dollar. And that really, it's dangerous for America if we just get toppled, right? If the dollar just gets toppled, it can send us into a downward spiral. So if everybody could just have, their dollar is worth $1. Our dollar is not worth 2,700 of yours, right? It's just a dollar's worth of dollar everywhere. Every country, you govern yourselves in the best way possible to make your people the best. Like what we do, like Trump says, America first. It doesn't mean that we wish bad on anybody or we want you to do bad, so we do well. No, everyone could do well. And so what does that start to provide? Everyone starts to fall in love with their own countries and staying there, and they come to America to visit, see the different cultures that we have here and the different things we have. And what do? They go back home because they don't have to come here because their families are starving or because
there's no need to escape because everything's fine.
Right.
You go to other countries to visit, and then you're good to go back home.
Right, and it's just and people, you could come here legally, and we could go somewhere else legally. If we wanted to change countries, God bless.
Right.
But I think it changes so much when you're able to just treat people and the right way and not to try to control other countries from America. Because why? Absolute, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And once you have power, you want more power. And it just,
that's where I think, like, obviously the dollar is like the world reserve right now.
Right.
But other countries obviously aren't very fond of that, right? And they're trying to break out of that. Like you're saying, they want to have their own sovereignty. So that's where a decentralized cryptocurrency like XRP that isn't governed or owned by any one country, that doesn't hold that power, would be something that I think all nations, all the superpowers especially, would want to sign on to, because they're going to go, oh, let's make the new reserve something that is not controlled by any one entity that could potentially try to overthrow us and take our country over. It would be something that everyone would come to the table and kind of decide, like, okay, let's do this because it's going to benefit all of us, and no one country is going to gain leverage over the other.
Yeah, I mean, and really, when you look at some of the things that have happened, because when you start to find out, if when Iraq, if they didn't want the Federal Reserve there, and then all of a sudden there's WMDs there, that really weren't there, and then we go to war there, and then we install a Federal Reserve there.
And like Gaddafi, right? Wasn't Gaddafi about to go on the gold standard or something like that before they took him out?
Gaddafi, the same thing. They dragged him through the streets, and we went in there, and so I mean, and that's what I mean when we use the U.S. dollar as a cudgel. And I hate to say it because during the time that we were growing, we didn't know about that. Like you said, when you're younger, you're out playing ball, and that stuff, and or you're doing what you're not really paying attention. But if someone does something wrong, or they created the big bad enemy for us, and we're red-blooded Americans, we're like, then let's go. They're not doing this to us, right? But when you come to find out, some of what's happening is things are happening for the wrong reasons. They're not telling you why it's happening, and you grow up thinking, in my case, especially through the 80s, that Russia was our enemy. But when you look at it, it's like, when you look at it now, it's almost like, and you see the Tucker interview with Putin.
Oh yeah.
You look at it, and you see the guy is telling you, the guy saying, like, it's a mistake using the dollar as a battering ram to everybody, because we're going to start to find different ways to survive. And once we find a way that we can do this that doesn't really include the dollar, you're going to have a problem. And he was like, why you don't tell your enemy, right? You don't tell your enemy when they're making mistakes. Let them continue to make mistakes, which is what he said. And where we always say he's a maniac, right? He's a madman. He's all these things. I watched the interview and I did not see that. I seen and I'm not saying he's not a bad guy. He's a gangster, and they do what they do. But all I know, I saw a guy that was very measured, smart, knew his country's history like I've never heard before.
Cares about his people. Like, I think he genuinely cares about his people.
Yeah, and he's into Russia, which was, so when Trump says, he's not saying that he's my best friend. He's saying, I respect my opponent.
Yeah.
And they're going to respect me. And I for sure. And when we go and talk, I will do what's best for America, and he needs to do what's best for Russia.
Yeah.
And whoever makes the best deal, then you make the best deal. But there's no, you're not going in there with a cudgel, with a bat in your back pocket, and knowing that you're going to go into it, knowing that you're going to say something to them, and then you're going to do a sanction when you get back home.
Right.
So,
Right.
but that being said, is like I said, the centralizing everything that's centralized now and what we're seeing now uh, is going to crumble. I think it will. I think that they're actually a new treasury is supposed to be being built. I'm not sure. One of my contacts that I know, the guy I was telling you about, that's
Yeah.
looking to do a large transaction.
Yeah.
He has some really good contacts, and they're looking to. I think they're building a Fed in like they're looking to build one in Texas or something like they're looking at. I mean, not a Fed, the Treasury, and the
Yeah.
Treasury is going to take on much more responsibility under control, so it don't get out of control.
Yeah.
But so the Fed could, we can get out of this Federal Reserve control that we're under right now. So I'd be interested to see if that does come to fruition. That would be an amazing step forward.
So do you think if they did end the Federal Reserve, like actually, fully ended it, and that power was given to the Treasury, do you think there's any way that the current circulating supply of the dollar could be translated to the Treasury, or would it have to be a new currency because that is a Federal Reserve note? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what'll have to happen is there's going to have to be a value exchange because people actually have to have dollars in their accounts, right? And that's what we've been dealing in. So there's going to have to be whatever the new currency would be, and I think it's going to have to be backed by, even if like the regular currency backed by gold, right? Like the way it used to be, and you could actually see you ever see the gold notes, how it looked?
Yeah.
So you have a new treasury note, and it actually is when they say it's a $100 bill, it's backed by $100 of a physical asset, right there. And so I think, and then when you look at it, right, that would be the hard currency. So the treasury, it would have to be some type of, hopefully a 1-to-1 match, so people aren't taking, because they said if they did a CBDC, you're looking at a 30% chop of your money right away.
Well, that's happened in other countries. I don't remember which one specifically, but they introduced the CBDC, and then it was like, from what I understood, it was kind of first come first serve, where the people who got in sooner were getting a better ratio, and so it was like this. People were just rushing in to try to trade their money in, and then the people at the end were just getting kind of screwed over. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I heard.
No, yeah, it's true. I know stuff. A lot of that, some of the stuff that even happened with freezing money and stuff that has already happened in different countries too throughout history, and not too distant history as well.
Yeah.
But when you do go back, even if you go back to the recall of gold, right back in the 30s, right after the Depression, they were trying to get people to go back into the banks to use banks, and so what they did is they recalled gold. But what they did is they recalled gold at like what they called the market price of it, and as soon as they recalled the gold at that market price, just surprisingly, I don't know how that happened, but gold was up like gold was up like 100% or so when the government owned it, when it recalled it from its citizens. For some reason the value of gold happened to pop.
Yeah, I wonder why.
And so and so that I think that's the stuff that coming out of the the Depression, or coming out of, say, a 2008 scenario, what happened there. If people get any type of relief, it's almost like they don't care where it comes from. They just need to be able to feel like they can breathe again, right? So they kind of let stuff slide. And that's why I think that this 4 years moving forward, it's going to go by fast. And that's why I think it is vital that people, again, look to get that crypto coach, look to get into a program where they could see exactly what to do, lay a very strong foundation underneath you. So when you do start to move out on your own, and and you'll always have that coach with you, right? With right, Jace, once they get your program. Yeah,
with my program, it's one-time payment, and then you're in for life. So it's not like a subscription or anything like that.
Yeah, and so at your fingertips, you literally have an expert on crypto to kind of move you through, especially the details. I'm telling you, that connect the dots. But when you can lay that strong foundation, you can move out on your own. You can try different things. If you feel you're hitting a snag before you move forward, and feel like it's something that it can be a big snag, you can step on a landmine. reach out and you literally have someone there to go, okay, nope, I'm glad that, pull back for a second. What's the scenario? And I know this because I did this. I thought I lost money because I sent it to the wrong address, but it ended up being inside the Descent, the soft wallet and the hardware wallet.
Yeah.
And so you had me check, and I was like, dude, for 3 days I was stressing.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was a fix that I didn't even think to look at. But
that happened with another client of mine, something super similar. I saved him like $50,000 that he thought he lost because he didn't quite understand how the wallets worked and where the money was and all that. So yeah, it's like you can learn this stuff if you've got a ton of free time and you just want to sit all day on YouTube and trial and error. But if you don't want to trial and error and you don't want to make mistakes and potentially lose money, then having a coach is the way to go, because I've been through all of the trial and errors pretty much already. And I try to be the coach that I wish that I had when I first started, answering all the questions and the mistakes that I was going through. And there is going to be a ton when you're first getting into it. If you don't have anybody guiding you, like most likely you are going to make mistakes unless you're just like a super genius and you pick it up super fast. But or what you do is, or you give, and you got to be, again, you have to be careful, because I know some that give companies control out there, and you got to be careful on what you're doing and who's doing it, right? So this is something about your own sovereignty. It's something about keeping your family under that sovereign umbrella. And if you're going to move forward in this new way of investing or building some wealth and some passive income and continuing to build, it's something that you need to have somebody who's going to walk you through. And having a coach is great, because what you do is the coach is going to guide you, but you are actually doing the work, right? You're going in and you're doing, so you're learning it. That's the important thing, is being able to do it yourself and move forward. And then, as the program starts to evolve, there's ways we can move in, and we could literally, help you, kind of go deeper and deeper into this, where you're maximizing returns, you're maximizing passive income. But what's nice is it's almost like a collaboration, because you know what you're looking at. You understand what different things mean, the jargon, the ways you need to move, and when to make a move. So it's really great to incorporate that as you're moving forward on your own and building your sovereignty and building your wealth. It's great to have someone like that in your corner, just moving along with you. And if you take 2 steps forward, it's like the program, which is like the expert, kind of takes 2 steps forward towards you. And then, it's not, you take 2 steps back because you're going to do your own thing. The program will take 2 steps back. Right. And we're right there and Jace will be right there with you when you need him. So, I always like to really emphasize that, because I feel like it was very important in my kind of progression in it. And I know Lisa and I, we're very grateful for it, because it's something that we're continuing to move forward in. But what I'll do is, you have any closing remarks on today's show? Is a lot of information, so I just like people to just absorb it. Yeah, I think what I heard the other day that I liked, that somebody said, was the best time to get into crypto was a couple years ago. The second best time is right now, because the markets, with Trump just winning and his promises to crypto to make, strategic reserves in the US government and to make US crypto capital of the world, it's already causing the markets to pump. And we're not even in that utility run like we were talking about yet. This is all speculative. So like XRP is like somewhere between 60, 70 cents right now, high 60s. Personally, I think anywhere under $1 is a total steal. And, a couple of years from now, we'll probably be saying anything under $10 or $100 was a steal.
That's right.
Like we were saying, I think it's going to go to the thousands in the next few years when the utility really hits, and when we have millions of dollars moving in and out of these markets for these cross-border payments. So now is a really good time to get into it. And I think if people want to join my academy, I don't think I was just checking to see if it's in the description right now. The link's not there, but we'll throw it in right after.
Yeah, we'll put it in.
yeah, leave a comment or something if you want to join, and we'll reach out to you and set up a free call with me. Basically, if you want to join, we'll set up a free call. We'll talk. I'll get to know you, see if it's a good fit, and then we'll get you in the academy. So yeah, I'm just excited. I think we have a very prosperous future, and not just, it's not, for me, it's like, it's not about the money. It's about what we're going to do with the money. It's about and that's the real mission behind Conscious Crypto Academy, is not just to educate people on this and to be the support network, but that we're creating this network of, we have an international group. We have people all around the world, tons of countries, of course, US, Australia, UK, Europe, Mexico, Canada, like all over the place. And when our group becomes millionaires and billionaires in the near future, we're going to have this network to tap into and create some really cool things together. And that's what I'm really excited for.
Yeah. And and when you were telling, when you were on the deep dives and with Lisa and I, and you were explaining the mission, it was something that really resonated, I know, with both of us, but that's something where that definitely is something right down, kind of, that's my lane that I would love to be in. And when you have a group of people of similar minds, right, thinking similar on a similar mission, there is nothing more powerful. And that's when I say, you want to build your wealth. And again, let's take these next 4 years, and if we hit it and we put the work in, I think come after year 4, no matter what happens, we can literally affect change. We can literally affect so many different things in humanity in a good, positive way. Because we'll have people, again, being able to stand firm in their own sovereignty, not being worried about being canceled or shut out because they've done the right thing. And I think to spearhead that, I think, is awesome. That's why I love you. And it's why I think that this show is going to be so important in the months and hopefully years to come, wherever it builds to. But I really appreciate everybody who joined the chat. And any questions about the program, we'll put the link in the description, so you'll have it. But we will get any answers to you, or get you connected to Jace. But our next show again is going to be not next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, and we'll go on at 10 a.m. Then we had some scheduling that we had to do. So, but we'll be back on that same timeline in 2 Tuesdays. And so just want to thank everybody. And just listen, keep asking questions, and we appreciate you all, and we will talk to you soon. So thank you.
Much love, everyone. Have a great one.
Much love. All right.